I'm beautiful Jellyfish, it's Tracy. Thanks so much for taking time today to hang out with me. I really appreciate it. I filmed this intro 3 times. I'm just truly ready to get on with this video. Basically, I wanted to film this mock deck tech for you guys. This is not a deck that I own, although I did own it a long time ago, which I will not be bringing back. But these mock deck techs are actually kind of a little bit tricky to film and get and kind of prep, not so much film, but prep for, because I don't have the deck. It's a lot easier for me to be like, hey, I built this, here you go, here are the cards and all that sort of stuff. I'm having kind of technical issues jumping into this and trying to get this filmed and set up for you guys. Anyways, so basically I kind of have curated this list, and what I did basically is I went through my box of Magic like cards that I have where it's like set aside for decks that Paul and I will build in the future. If we ever use some of those cards, but that's the idea of the box, is that we hold on to a lot of EDH staples. And then I also went to EDH Rec, and basically I went on there and I looked at all like cards that you could run for Talrand, and then I also did, to find a couple of the last minute cards, I kind of just looked up like Magic blue sorceries and instants, and I kind of just figured and saw what's out there. So I'm gonna be doing this deck tech a little bit differently than how I do other deck techs, because I'm kind of going to be grouping cards together based on what they kind of are, and I'm kind of going to be going through some things pretty quickly because the deck list will be listed in the number below, and it's pretty cohesive. I did throw 2 cards on the maybe board too, and I could have honestly put a little bit more on there, because like things that you're kind of missing out on doing this deck budget is you're missing out on like a really big staple card with like Cyclonic Rift. You're also missing out on like the infinite combo with Peregrine Drake and Deadeye Navigator, because those are a little bit on the pricier sides. And I also threw in what is this that I threw in down there? What does this card do? Oh, this is like you have no maximum hand size. Whenever creature token you control deals combat damage, draw a card. This card is actually pretty cool. It was just like $2, $3, $4, $5, so I didn't necessarily want to throw it on the list because, again, I don't want to throw on any cards here that are a little bit pricey. I don't even know what the most expensive card on here is, but I kind of figured we'd go through it together. So the mana base is pretty nice when you're playing a monocolored deck because you don't have as much room to play with. I threw in a couple of things here, like I thought a Reliquary Tower would be really important because you're drawing a lot of cards. You're obviously maximizing, your whole point of playing this deck is you're maximizing Talrand's ability, which is you want to be playing a ton of instants and sorceries so you can get the 2/2 Drakes, and you're trying to kill people. So as you can see here, I've got 30 instants and 16 sorceries, so you've got 46 instants of that. And you're trying to stop your opponents. There's some solid counter spells in here, all that kind of stuff. It's not a very hard deck, like it's a very simple thing. You're just playing a bunch of instant sorceries. But lands, I got 32 islands. That's actually a really cool island. Wow, that art is actually really sweet. What is that from? I got no idea, but it's cool. I also grabbed a Myriad Landscape. This is kind of like you could put whatever you want in this spot. You know, I put the Reliquary Tower and then the Mystic Sanctuary. These are all really affordable cards. Reliquary Tower is like $2 or so, and then which, you know, again, if you didn't want to spend that on there, the deck's sitting at roughly, like over here it says anywhere from like 38 to like 45, but I'm assuming you probably have a couple of these cards on hand anyway, or could trade for a slot on these cards. They're pretty, a lot of these are common and uncommon cards. Honestly, you could probably get them and pick them up really inexpensively. A lot of these cards are like under 10 cents, which is really great. And Talrand himself is like sitting at 30 cents. So that's the mana base. Again, super easy. You could obviously, you know, this is just a skeleton. You could literally do what you want with this deck, you know, for sure. Artifacts, I've got Armorly Sphere as a mana acceleration. I grabbed Hall of Triumph and Heraldic Banner. This card is like $1 or $2, but I think it's a really cool card because it adds mana to your pool, but then your team gets buffed a little bit. There's a bunch of cards that you could throw in here that are really similar, but I grabbed these, and you'd obviously pick blue, and then your Drakes would be buffed, so they'd become 3/3s, which is really cool. Mind Stone is another acceleration. Sisay's Ring, Sky Diamond, Soul Ring, all those are really basic, like, cards to have. I grabbed Sisay's Ring over other stuff because it's literally sense, but, like, again, you could throw this with whatever mana acceleration stuff you have and whatever. I did grab Spellbook. It's like $1 or $2, but I thought that it would be really good because you're probably going to be drawing a lot of cards and you're going to want things that give you no maximum hand size. So Foot Boots, it's like, you know, $1 or whatever, but I thought you really wanted this. I didn't put Greaves in here because it is a little bit more expensive, but you could definitely do that. And Traveler's Amulet. For creatures, I know it's funny looking at it because it's literally only 3 because, again, you're maximizing Talrand's ability. But first off, we have Archaeomancer. There's a lot of these types of stuff that in here that are, you're going to want to get back your instant sorceries because you'd cast them again, which is great. I grabbed Solemn Simulacrum, Sad Robot, because you're going to want to be getting lands and it draws you a card, which is really great. And then I also grabbed this card, which I thought was really cool. This is a 3-mana 2/2, and it says whenever you cast your first spell during each opponent's turn, you get to draw a card. I figured you'd probably be casting a lot of spells during your opponent's turns. If it's like a counterspell, obviously, but even not that, like a lot of the draw cards I thought you wouldn't necessarily be casting on your turn, and you do have obviously more instants than sorcery, so that was kind of my thought process there. Yeah, did I skip over enchantments? That's interesting. Okay, enchantments, first off, favorable winds has to be in this deck because, again, the card's like a buck or two, but it's such a good staple because all your stuff gets +1/+1. Honestly, if you didn't want this card, I'm sure you could find stuff that's similar to Hall of Triumph and Heraldic Banner if you want to spend, like, Hall is really cheap. But, Jace's Sanctum, I also grabbed, there's a card that's similar to this. Oh, wait, I guess maybe I didn't put that in there, but this one's really cool. This card is great. It's instant sorceries cost 1 less to cast, which is great. And whenever you cast an instant sorcery, you get to scry 1, which is awesome. I also threw in Precognition Field because I really like this card. It says you can cast the top card of your library if it's an instant sorcery, and you get to exile it. I really like this card. I think this card's absolutely perfect in there, and it's so cheap. Telepathy, I just thought was kind of a cheeky card, and I thought it was really fun, and I thought that'd be cool to throw in there. Threw in a Trail of Evidence too, which I really like. I mean, it gets you, whenever you cast instant sorcery spells, which is literally half of the deck, you get to investigate, which is really cool. So I thought that was great. Let's save the instance for last and go through sorcery. So again, I'm kind of just going to be going through these pretty quickly because, like, honestly, you can look at the deck in the down bar below and it's like a lot of these cards are really straightforward. I grabbed Call to Mind. This is another card that, you know, gets back an instant sorcery spell. I grabbed Chart a Course, draw a card, and then discard a card unless you attack with a creature this turn. I thought this card was really cool because you can pretty much, you're probably going to be attacking with your Drakes. And I thought, you know what, for 2 mana to draw 2 cards seems pretty cool. I threw in a Curse of the Swine. I absolutely love this card. Couldn't necessarily, wait, hold up. Did I put the 2 cards? I didn't throw in Pognify and Rapid Hybridization because they are a little bit of money, and so I thought that if you wanted something like this, I thought that this card would be really cool. I did also throw in Reality Shift, which is kind of similar in that exiling spell, so you can get your little bit of spot removal, but I like that this is X too, so you can pay a lot of mana for it. I threw in a Distant Melody because I thought you'd be making a ton of Drakes, and you could draw a ton of cards with this card, which that would be cool. Divination, drawing 2 cards, great card. Flood of Reflection I just talked about in another video. This card is really similar to Call to Mind, except it's 1 less mana and you do exile it, but it's still very good. I thought Mass Manipulation would be a really great card to put in here because it's kind of like your end game card because you don't, your curve is so incredibly low. I mean, you can, if you scroll down, you can see how low the curve is. You top out at 5, and I have 1 card at 5, which is Aether Sprouts. Like this, the curve is so low. I mean, you can see you're really sitting at 2 and 3. Your curves are ridiculously low in this deck. And so basically Mass is kind of like your way to kind of like, you know, do that. Can I click on this and then it does that? No. Okay, I don't know how that works. But anyways, I thought this card would be a great end of game card. And again, as like another win condition, I thought would be really cool. It is like a buck, but I thought it was good. You could obviously cut this and, you know, run whatever. I threw in Mentor's Guardianship, which I thought is really, really awesome because you actually get to cast this twice because Talrand is a wizard. So my thought process is you draw this, you get to copy it, you get to scry 2 and then draw 2 cards for 3 mana. I thought that was pretty good. Pieces of the Puzzle is just a really cute little card. I like it. Ponder, Ponder, and then Portent. And Preordained, they're all like really similar, like cards, scrying, drawing cards, all that kind of stuff. Serum Vision's also very similar. Sleep, I thought would be a really great, like, save yourself kind of card. So you can kind of make sure that you're kind of, you know, keeping yourself alive. Treasure Cruise, because who doesn't like to draw 3 cards for literally 1 mana? That seems a little ridiculous, right? And then I grabbed Winged Words. Basically, it costs 1 less to cast if you control a creature with flying your entire deck. So basically, it's 2 mana to draw 2 cards at sorcery speed, which is definitely not bad. So those are for the sorceries. Again, the thing that I think is really fun, and with the instance too, is like you could literally put any instance of sorceries in the deck, and you're gonna be in a good position because that's just all what Talrand wants to do. You know what I mean? You get that, you maximize that, and all that sort of stuff. So instance, let's dive in. It's 30. It's obviously the biggest thing of the game. You want to be doing stuff during your opponent's turn. I threw in an Aether Spouts in here. you know, your opponents attack you, and then you get a little bit of protection there to put them on the top or the bottom of their library. And it's really great too, because if they attack you with tokens, the tokens just fizzle, which is awesome. So that card's great. Anticipate, another really similar. There's a lot of draw stuff in here, manipulating what's going on in your library. And then I've got Boomerang. I just threw in as kind of like a, again, kind of similar to how I feel about mass manipulation. Is kind of just a, like, you know, it's just a bounce sort of thing, you know, bounce a token, they don't get it back, which is really great. Brainstorm, we've been talking about cards that are really similar. Capsize, another bounce thing, but what I really liked about this was that it's got the buyback. So it is kind of a lot of mana. It's 6 mana to bounce something back, with the fact that you can get Capsize back, you can keep triggering it off of Talrand, makes this card absolutely incredible. So I love it. Counterspell, yep. Deliberate, I almost said debilitate. Deliberate, it's Scry 2 draw card. Again, very similar. We talked about cards like this before. Dig Through Time, gotta have Dig Through Time. It's a great, great, great card. Disdainful Stroke is great. It's gonna hit a lot of things. I like that it's not creature or non-creature. It's just anything. It is just got to be 4 or greater, but that's going to hit a lot of stuff in Commander, so it's fine. Dissipate and Dissolve are very similar. I like that Dissolve exiles, and Dissolve you get to scry. They are both counter target spells, so they counter everything. Essence Scatter is only creature, but it's only 2 mana, which is great. Exclude is cool. It is only creature spell, but you get to draw a card, and it's 1 more mana, so it's very similar to Essence Scatter in that way. I really love Factor Fiction. I found that, like, every single time I play with Factor Fiction, I just really love this card, and I've always just, every time I cast it, I'm like, this card's awesome. So Foil I thought would be a really great addition in this deck because, sorry, I don't know why my mouse is, hold on, let me do this. Okay, there we go. Foil I thought would be a really great card in this deck because you can literally, you know, discard an island and then you get to counter anything. So that seems like a really great trade-off. You've got a ton of islands, and again, your curve is so low. I don't necessarily think you're going to miss that one island, and if you don't, you pay 4 mana for it, which is, like, fine. Not great, but, you know. I threw in a Frantic Search, draw 2, then discard 2, and untap 3 lands. I think these cards are really cool. It is, like, a little more expensive. Like, I think if you were like, oh, I don't want to run this card, like, I don't think you would need to. Like, this deck list is so, like, there's not a lot of, like, must-haves, I would say, in here, you know? There's, like, I would definitely run, like, Favorable Winds, Hall of Triumph. I would definitely run a lot of these, like, 1 mana stuff. I would definitely run, like, Curse of the Swine, Call to Mind, Flood. I would definitely run those. But, yeah. Anyways, Mission Briefing I thought would be a cool card, you know, you get to do that. Negate is really great. Opt, very basic. Peek, it's just a cute little card if you don't have your telepathy. It's also just gets to draw. You get 2 things out of this, which is great. I also just realized I didn't throw Gitaxian Probe in here. Anyways, I would definitely add Gitaxian Probe too. Quicken I thought would be really, really fun in here. What I really like about Quicken is that you pay it for 1 mana, you get to draw a card off of it, and then you get to play any of your sorceries in that sense, which is really great. Like, a Quickened Treasure Cruise seems pretty good. Like, a Quickened Mass Manipulation, that seems really cool. I like that a lot. So, Reign of Revelation, I like this card. I just think this is a really cool draw card. It's 4 mana, you draw 3 cards, and you discard. You don't really care about the discard, though. Drawing 3 cards is really great off of it. Reality Shift, I love this card. I would definitely recommend playing with this card because people are gonna be playing really threatening things that you're gonna want to exile. Rewind, very similar to, what is that card? Is it, what is the card that's really similar to this? I do not remember. Is it this one? Unwind? Yeah, Unwind and Rewind are very similar. This one's counter target spell on top up to 4 lands, and Unwind is counter target non-creature spell on top up to 3 lands. So they're very similar. Saw It Coming is counter target spell, and then it does have Foretell. Sinister Sabotage, another counter spell, you get to surveil. Think Twice, I thought what would be really cool about Think Twice is that it's got the flashback cost, so I think you could definitely maximize some flashback cards in here, which I thought would be not bad. We already talked about Unwind. Wizard's Retort, I thought was really cool. It costs 1 less if you control a wizard, which if you have Talrand, it costs 1 less, so it's only 2 mana, and you counter target spell. So it's basically a counter spell, which is great. And the last card that I threw in was You Find the Villain's Lair, which I really like this because it does a different thing based on what you need. You get to pick one. You can either counter target spell, or you can draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. So most likely, my guess here is you'd probably be using it as a counter spell, but you also do have a solid amount of counter spells in this deck, which I think is really cool, and a ton of draw cards. Like, you're going to be drawing so many cards in this, which is really cool. So yeah, guys, that's kind of like my mock Talrand deck tech. I'd really like to know if you guys want me to do other mock deck techs. I've actually been thinking about potentially doing an equipment one with a lot of like the cheaper equipment. I thought would be really fun and like a really fun sort of challenge. I've also thought about doing a budget Omnath deck because I already have Omnath, but I understand that that would be a really great deck for if you're building a budget deck, that would be a really great one to do. But let me know if you guys want me to do other budget deck techs, and if so, who you would like me to do so I can add those to my list. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate if you give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you're not already, and I'll catch you in my next one.